Right, we're on, a little group of us is on the peninsula at Foxton Locks, and our job this afternoon is to survey a site to see what there is on this particular area that is worthy of preservation, in the way of trees, any unusual plants. Basically, people have not come onto this peninsula very often in the last decade or so, perhaps a lot longer than that. And there is a small amount of money available for improving it, for taking out what is no longer needed, and for making the most of it.
And creating a new orchard,
Possibly creating a new orchard here or nearby. I've not been told the precise details.
Okay.
The idea is to actually really put a bit of new life into the trees that are already here, and then if the association has any trees it wants to plant, it feels will fit in, maybe use those as well.
Yeah.
Maybe have picnic benches and make it a sociable area for people to come to.
Yes.
Oh, that sounds good.
Thank you.
With a lot of wildlife.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've already noticed two interesting trees. There's a very old tree here, and from a visit I made about 9 or 10 years ago, I know this is an old rootstock tree, very, very old. I would estimate it 70 or 80 years. Not in very good shape, not of any great interest, but it's been here a long time, put it like that. But behind it you can see a much more interesting tree. That is an eating apple. The tree we estimated when we saw it last time was probably 100 years old. It used to be a lot bigger, and it has enormous eating apples on it, and we're actually making this, Leicestershire Heritage Apples is making this available as the variety Calla colossus. Very, very nice apple. But that tree is certainly worthy of preservation if it's in a good enough state to do it.
Okay, right, thanks for that.
Now Mark's invited us to this site to look at particularly the apple trees, as this used to be the old lockkeeper's garden and orchard. And you've got plans to develop this area to have a picnic area with some apple trees and perhaps a mooring point. So we thought before Steve starts to cut down some of the trees, we need to map the trees which are here, look at the apple trees, and have a starting point, a base map of the area first. And this is our project
And
today.
obviously you're like looking at the nature and that and deciding what needs to stay to attract the nature and what is not going to do any harm, is that right?
That's right, because we've come from different groups, and though we're particularly interested in the apple trees, there's also a lot of wildlife here, and you've come from the museum up the way, and you're aware of the wildlife and the history of the site. So we're interested in the wildlife, the history, the trees. You're interested in people accessing this area.
It's just a whole package. It's opening up to people, so there'll be picnic benches for people to come here. There'll be information boards of the various things. At the moment it's very much of an open book, if you like. We're asking for people's input, what they'd like to do. Mike's come as well because he's got an idea of what we could do with a few of the kids on plants and on wildlife and interpretation boards, the sort of thing.
I'd be very, very keen to keep a bit of a wild feel to the place, and the fact that it was an orchard and been quite manicured. I think that's something that you can sort of
combine the two.
Yeah, we can put that in the story. But the Foxton Locks tends to be a very manicured place.
Yes.
Because of its nature. And there's not that many places around here that you can wander into relatively wild woodland and enjoy yourself. And I think that's part of its potential.
This is why we're keeping the piece at the back there. It's all the way down. There's the red and white ticker tape. So we're only clearing back to there, which allows the wildlife to keep a section in between the canal and the open piece. So that's what we're doing.
That's
also, we cleared down there. All the way down we see where the red ticker tape is. And then this is what we want ideas for what to do in this area. Like I said, to make it too manicured. It keeps it rough and
sounds
ready.
good.
Yeah, and also there's the problem of future management of it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you try and, I mean, one of my suggestions was that part of it might be a lockkeeper's vegetable garden, but that only works if we can find volunteers who will come along every week and look after it properly. And even apple trees, if somebody doesn't come in and do the necessary pruning and pick the apples and everything, it's not going to
I mean, when
to
it
be
comes
what we wanted it
when
to
it comes
be
to
for very long.
vegetables, you need to be not once a week. It's got to be every day, really, or every
Yeah.
couple of days.
Shall we wander along? Let's have a look
But
along here.
that shows I'm not a brilliant
Yeah.
gardener.
Well, I've got 3
Engineering,
allotments, so
Yes.
So what we're doing at the moment, folks, we're having a wander around this site just to see what needs to be done. Nigel was giving advice on the apple trees. We've got tree surgeon and we've got various other people here giving advice on different topics, including nature.
I do wonder if rather than put lots of labels around everything, we would be better off numbering things
Careful.
and have some sort of written material to go with it.
And you're talking about developing it in stages. So instead of having the whole site developed in one go, you start off developing a small area
Right.
and then see how it works and then extend the area. So each year we extend the area
Okay.
with a different project.
That sounds good. I get an achy arm with this.
Yes. Not the bramble, but a sort of head high.
So if you like 10 metres from here over to there is the amount of space we can have. The rest of that will be kept as like a shrub for wildlife.
Yeah.
That makes
There's a path in from the other side.
Oh, there's a path in from the other side to take you around there.
And Mark, just tell me again, how long is it since somebody's been on this land?
Well, from your Mike was telling me, you drove a dumper truck down here, didn't you?
Yes.
When was that?
That was probably 30 years ago. But this was when we were first going to have a wildlife area here, and then somebody said, "Oh no, we'll just leave it as it is. That will be much better."
Well, I was here 10 years ago, and this area here was impassable. This pathway did not exist. This was one of the trees. You can see there's an apple tree at the back there,
Yes.
and there was no way I could reach that at that time.
I think the last lockkeeper that would have maintained it was probably in the 1930s.
So would you say it's not been touched for 60 years, 60 years? It's a long
Right,
time.
isn't it? Yeah.
And you've just created this path
Yeah,
last
we did the
week,
path this
last month.
afternoon, so we get down to this tree because it quite interested us. And then what we're going to do now is we're actually renting in some more bush cutters, and the volunteer lock keepers are going to clear all the way back. So this, within 3, 4, 5 weeks, should be cleared really.
Yeah.
So if we can clear this in, well, one chap can clear this in 2 hours. We're hoping 2 or 3 of us over a week or so
Yeah.
can get it down. And then, as Mike quite rightly said, it's to maintaining it afterwards. This is why we're interested to find out what ideas people have, not only for keeping it and what to do with it, but to keep it at the end of the day, to maintain it.
Because these brambles will grow again next spring,
Yeah.
equal bigger, won't they?
Oh yes, I'm not an expert, but the only thing I can see here is bramble.
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be much wildlife down there, nothing much to lose. An awful lot of this just needs to be cleared.
I think you'll find next spring all sorts of other things will shoot up as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the brambles will start growing, but I think other stuff will shoot through.
Yeah.
That'd be lovely, wouldn't it?
Meadow flowers
Yeah.
and all sorts.
Which
could
is
be.
possibly the point when we need to look again and see what's here and say, we want to keep that. You know?
Well, when you walked around the other side, there was actually fruit bushes like raspberries and
Yeah.
blackcurrants, I
Yeah.
think, see, we saw.
Yes, which were probably the lock keepers.
Originally, but
Yeah.
they seed a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're nearly at the pinnacle there. know you told me I was silly, but... So what's this one then? Is this thing special?
I don't know. This is the first time I've got near enough to look at the fruit. Let's take one off.
Now obviously eaters, or you can eat them, boaters come up and they stand on the roof and pick the apples.
Well, all apples are edible, and even cooking apples. Here we are. It doesn't look very prepossessing, does it, Julie?
It doesn't, does it?
I think
So what would these black marks be?
Some sort
I
of
haven't seen that
mould.
before.
I think I'm going to scrape some of those marks off with my
Oh, you
knife.
found it?
Yeah, in my other pocket.
There's a cleaner one.
There was
here.
too much money in my pocket.
Do
I
you want a
couldn't
clean
find the
one?
knife.
Do you have a pen and I'll make a cross?
Want to
where
try
I
a
think
piece? Here we go, Mark.
It's there.
it's
It
right
won't
at the
poison you.
Yes.
All
hope.
apples are edible, even that one.
I'm not sure how much of that is land, but you can see.
Well, I get a
the
piece.
through
Yeah.
there, so,
Actually, it's just a small
So-
few metres there, isn't it?
at most,
Oh, it's
yeah.
quite good.
So that's actually the canal. So it's just...
Yeah, in fact, I would say it's, at most it's 2 or 3
Nice.
metres.
Yeah, now that is a late eating apple. That will keep all winter. It's a very dense, concentrated, sugary sort of apple. Quite decent. It would be worth making some new trees from that, probably. The actual tree that we've got in front of us looks salvageable. Most of it looks quite healthy, considering that it's not been touched for so long.
Even though it's got holes through it at the bottom.
Well, yes, as long as you make sure that the water can't collect and the water can drain out, it won't rot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How old do you think?
And they do self-heal, don't they?
110, 120 years possibly.
Nigel, they do self-heal, some of these.
Yes, they do.
There's mine on my tree, that's healed up.
Yeah, they will frequently heal if they're looked after properly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would guess this is probably about 100 years old.
Okay.
So when would you consider pruning it to help it regenerate?
Yes, I would take all. The first thing you do is to take all of the old wood off, the dead and dying. So the lower branches you can see are not looking good. Ones like this, you can see the bark. The bark is dead. So there are various dead bits that come off first, and then you take a few paces back from the tree and think, right, the tree has got to look roughly symmetrical, so it's stable. And so then you carefully start cutting bits away so that you get a nice form to the tree. There's no point in having a wreck of a tree anywhere. There really isn't.
And would you do that all in 1 year, or would you have to do it over?
I think you'd have to assess it, but I wouldn't do a lot of pruning. I wouldn't take out 3 or 4 major branches in 1 year. And by major branches, you're talking about things that are 4 or 5 inches thick.
Yeah.
So perhaps do a couple of those 1 year and a couple the next year.
Yes. So we could possibly take some grafts or scions from this, ready for the grafting workshop.
Yes, we
in
could
the
certainly make some new
February.
trees in February, yeah.
And that would help make a clearer diagnosis, or should we collect the leaves, the flower and the apple too?
Well, this tree is so old and possibly diseased that it's not going to be very easy to identify an apple like that. It really needs regrafting so we can see what the fruit really looks like. You may find when the tree is thinned out that the fruit gets larger and everything gets much more healthy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice tree. I wouldn't take this one out.
No.
Yes, come the spring, there's very often a swan's nest as well.
Yeah.
I can see some mallards just
Oh,
sometimes
yeah.
just through
Yeah.
there.
Well, they're always here.
Now, is this tree at risk of flooding? Is the water level changing? Because we've got water on both sides here.
Yeah, but no, it's canal, so it's very controlled.
Yeah. They have flood puddles along the length of the canal to drop water out of it. And if it gets too much, you can drop it through the locks as well.
Yeah.
So
We'd have to have
If this flooded,
a
it'd be a
really
problem.
major problem. if,
this would be the
if
least
it's
of the
flooded.
problems.
Yeah. Good.
Yes, Foxton Village at the bottom there might be a bit
Soggy.
inconvenient.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be quite interesting. Right.
But I'll go, well, I haven't.
No, I've never heard of that.
So all these would need trimming, wouldn't they? You think?
You can be really brutal to these.
Can you?
Yeah.
Okay.
These are the ones you can just stick a branch in and they grow.
You can, yeah,
Yeah.
most of the willow species you can do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cut a log, leave it on the floor, and it will start
Yes.
shooting.
An old friend of mine used to reckon that a lot of the willows along the River Soar in part of Leicester were people's fishing rests.
Yes.
You just snap something off a tree, push.
I can't see an apple. Oh, here's an apple too. Looks very similar to the other one, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, now I've grafted these.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, I've got some trees.
Excellent. So,
It's an eater. It's quite nice.
right, so it's different from the one at the far end then.
Yeah.
So you've actually got a selection of.
I think it's probably a Leicestershire variety, or it could be from a seed, but it's a nice one.
Oh, it tastes like a real apple.
Yeah,
Bit
it
of
does.
autumn.
Yeah. So that's
But
one.
not got a name. It's just the tree here.
Well, we call it Calla Colossus because Michael Callahan, my friend, found it. But it's probably
You make the tree smaller and smaller and keep the growth in the middle.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what sort of pruning is that?
It's called retrenchment pruning, but basically we'll go up there and we'll start at the outside, the top of the canopy, and we'll bring it in all directions.
And if you're going to have any kind of woodland, it's impossible to say that nothing will ever fall off a tree, is it? So,
Yeah.
You've got to keep a reasonable level of deadwood and the damaged timber and cavities
Yeah.
for all the rest of
Yeah.
the bugs and beasties and wildlife.
and
But obviously manage it.
yeah.
yeah.
So
Right.
It tends to come down in the middle of a storm anyway, rather than.
Yes, rather than people sitting there. Now look at this tree. This is not an apple tree. It's
See?
one of the ash trees.
No,
again.
told me, what's this one?
common ash, but that would have been regrowth from an old copy.
So it's like
Because it's
one tree.
multi-stem to start with. The rootstock will be much older than the big tree.
I actually think it's rather nice the way that it's growing off the top of that bough.
Because I like it.
Yeah, basically, yeah. It would have lost
Yeah.
a limb at some point and created more light in the canopy, and the tree would then just think, okay, there's light there, we'll put some regeneration in there.
Now this branch is so long. I presume you're going to do some radical trenchman pruning to it within the limits of.
Taking some weight off the end would help. It's a bit like when you're carrying your shopping. It's easy here, it's really difficult when you're carrying your shopping out there, so bring even like, a third or a couple of metres off the end will dramatically improve it. But the tree has grown like that. It's very strong. They're very good unions and things. So they're very good.
That sort of thing I think adds interest to.
Especially with that there. And the bench underneath where people can just come in.
Yeah.
And this is where the wow kids could come, isn't it? Because it's flat enough for the kids to come.
Put a rope on it, let them swing about, let kids be kids on it.
Yeah.
I would love to do that, but you know what we're going to say,
No,
don't
you
you?
can't do that the right
Health and safety can't, I'm sorry. Well, we could ask though, couldn't we? Whether there's something you can put on.
Because
Maybe have a wood chip based on it.
if the health and safety man is any good, it should be coming up with ideas that let you do these things rather than just saying no to everything.
Yeah, try and get a green carpet, try and get people out there doing stuff.
Do you not find though that it's often that there isn't an issue with the health and safety, it's the people in the chain in between the health and safety who are saying, oh no, you can't have this, you can't have that.
Look at my initial response.
And the National Trust are encouraging kids to go out and explore and climb a tree.
Yeah.
Great idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking that I presume all these are sort of elder bushes, ash saplings that you'd be clearing, presumably.
This is why. I mean, would you clear those?
Well, how far can you go back on it?
Why do you need clearing?
Good question.
I'm not sure whether you need to, would you? I'd actually keep this.
In my opinion, the wildlife aspect of this is more important. So it's.
Well, if you take out all let's say if you took out all of the bigger trees, you still have wildlife, it would be a different sort of wildlife.
Well, yes, yeah.
So you've got to choose very carefully.
Yeah.
There's, you've got some big trees, some small ones.
Yeah. but there's quite a big area sort of over that end that's being cleared. So
Yes.
It's part of the decision making, isn't it?
Yeah.
To decide
yes.
what each area is going to develop as. And doing part of,
Which is why having some sort of map of what's here is so important.
And it's hedgerows, that's the most important thing as well for the wildlife.
so they can
So
walk
when
along
you're
the corridors.
making notes, not to forget because you take those away and that'll make a big difference.
Yes. And this would be a sort of corridor.
Yeah.
But I think it was over there that there's the formal
There's enough
wild
space
area,
round here
isn't
to
there,
look at
which we walked past.
without
We
clearing
walked
more
round
space, isn't
the
it?
edge.
I think so, but I think it's going to be good to leave this area the border of that arm of the canal.
Yes.
The wildlife getting in and out of the water.
There's huge fish. Well, there was huge fish in here. This sort of size.
Especially
Really?
Yeah, massive fish in there. We have to stop people from fishing on there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we have to stop people from fishing in there all the time. 'Cause it's a penny a tell us off should get us.
Yeah, so saying, Mark, one of the things we have got to decide on is what's going to happen.